You're listening to Potty Mouth Radio, the home of movies, music, television, and comedy. We watched a thing. We watched a thing.
Welcome back to We Watched a Thing with Billy and Dave. You're joining us on a very special episode of what I guess we're going to call a director's spotlight. We're very, very fortunate to be chatting to Paul and Ben China, the writers and directors of the soon-to-be-released horror thriller, black comedy, a bit, Night Shift. Welcome, boys. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having us. We're really excited to be talking to you chaps.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks so much for having us on.
So we'll get to Night Shift in a minute, but I did want to kind of chat a little bit about how you got to this point. I know your Night Shift is sort of being described as your debut film, but I mean, that's not technically true. I mean, I guess on paper it's your debut being jointly credited, but you did have a cracking little Aussie thriller, Crawl, 13 years ago now? That would probably be?
Gosh, yeah, it feels that way when we shot that in Queensland.
Yeah, it was that 2010, 2011 Crawl. That was a film that, a small independent film that I wrote and directed and Ben produced, and we kind of threw everything into it. That was our first foray into filmmaking. And we were fortunate that the film did well and played over, I think it was 30 international film festivals. Played in select cinemas in the UK,
Wild.
yeah, and over here. And then that going on the festival circuit for that film is what brought us to Los Angeles, basically. And we've been here for the last 8 years.
8 years, yeah, gosh, yeah.
Fortunately, we still have our British accents. Yeah, it was a long time ago, but it was such a crucial, important first step for us, particularly to sort of like hone our craft and to sort of poke our nose in the industry. But
yeah, I mean, 30 festivals is pretty crazy. I knew it had played at Fright Fest because I've got a friend who lives over in Oxford and has some dealings with Fright Fest in terms of curating and things, I believe. So I had heard about it at the time. But it's a long while between drinks in terms of directing projects.
Too long.
I mean, it's so hard to make a film, you know, and with Paul and I, we just that's all we wanted to do. But then after Crawl sort of got us on that festival circuit and sort of brought us, took us back to England and brought us over here to America. We were getting like great response from other scripts we were written, and so we ended up writing for a lot of other people, writing feature scripts, like horror scripts for directors and a couple of studios, and then we worked on TV for a bit. We created a couple of horror shows that we sort of luckily sold, but they never got made. And the whole time we were doing it, we were just getting a bit frustrated because we just desperately wanted to get behind the camera again and make another film. And here we are with Night Shift. You know, it took us all those years later, but we're so glad we managed to sort of pull it together and to make something, to make Night Shift and to do it.
It must be. I mean, I did read. I mean, you guys. If you look at IMDb, it doesn't look like there's a lot there, but you guys have written quite a lot of stuff from what I've read.
Yeah. We were fortunate to have some of them get made. A script of ours, Sweet Virginia, got made a few years ago.
Yeah.
And that kind of...
that was a Blacklist script, I believe, which is kind of a badge of pride, I would imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. It was wonderful to see that reception over here. And it was just amazing that film got made many years later with a different director and who did a wonderful job. But yeah, then we, like I think Ben said, we ended up selling a few scripts to different studios. We worked in television for a few years. And while we were fortunate that, you know, scripts were selling and we were still writing, we were sort of getting frustrated that nothing was getting to the screen. And so by making Night Shift, it really felt like it's a directorial debut because it's from the both of us together operating as the China brothers, but it also feels like a fresh start as well. And we're just incredibly proud of the film and that we've managed to sort of get it out there.
I'm just curious. I've got two sisters, an older sister and a younger sister, and I can't think of anything worse than working with them in a professional capacity. But you guys have done the whole thing from writing and not just like splitting them up, like, sometimes the Coen brothers do. You guys have done both collaboratively. How does that work? How does it work when you're directing together on set with Night Shift?
It just kind of feels, I don't know if it's a twin thing maybe, but it's like it feels sort of effortless really, because we're quite inseparable, and in that sort of creative field we're always just like bouncing ideas off each other, and it works so well when we're writing and behind the camera as well. It just feels effortless. I personally, I mean, I can't imagine not doing it any other way. Maybe it is a twin thing. I don't know.
I think it is. Because like you say, with siblings, even with like non-twins, you can get frustrated at each other and behave acrimonious in nature. But with Ben and I, it's always been harmonious, and we've been, we consider ourselves to be extremely fortunate that we have that relationship and that two heads are better than one. And making Night Shift together was just a wonderful experience, and hopefully we get to keep making many more.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is nice to sort of, obviously with Beck editing as well, it's a family project, I guess.
It certainly is.
It certainly is a family affair without a shadow of a doubt. And again, it's still harmonious. And like I think that also particularly with Beck as an editor, and she's a phenomenal editor. She by having the three of us in the editing suite, there's never any sort of arguments, because it always goes, well, like if two of us have an opinion voting yes or no on a particular cut and the other person is outvoted, then we just go along with it, because we know, we don't.
Yeah, no one's taking it personally. Majority rules.
Yeah, that's right. And it just it works that way. And that happened a number of times, where like say my wife and Ben were like pushing for a particular take, and I just went with it because two voices were louder than one and I wasn't going to fight it. So, yeah, they worked that way again to our benefit, I think.
Yeah.
So I believe that the film was shot during COVID, so it is quite a small cast. But that being said, it's a huge cast of names, like a big list of names. How did that happen when it's been quite a while since you guys made Crawl to going, and this is your directorial debut? How did it go, kind of pulling this film together with such caliber that you've got on set?
We don't know.
Yeah. We consider ourselves like incredibly fortunate, and we're just lucky that like actors of that caliber really sort of responded to the material and really sort of responded to like the direction we want to take it in. I mean, even when you look at like, we had Lamore Morris, playing Teddy, and it's because when you look at in any other film, like a haunted motel film, if you look at a character of like, someone who runs the motel, it's usually perceived as someone who's like very old and creepy, and we were like, well, what happens if you cast Lamore Morris? You just totally flip it on its head and have this like fresh angle into it. And obviously that appeals to an actor of his level. And same for the other cast as well. It was just, particularly with the narrative journey with the main protagonist, played by Phoebe Tonkin, it just became like really sort of compelling for them. And we're very thankful that we got them. We really are.
I've got to admit, that was the hook that got me. Billy loves to tease me because I'm such a rabid Vampire Diaries universe obsessive. You stick Phoebe Tonkin on something, I'm there. And my kids are there because of H2O.
Yeah,
iconic Australian TV show.
100%. Yeah, she's an Aussie icon, really. With Phoebe especially, we knew that by casting the role of Gwen, we have an actress who's on screen for 98% of the time.
Yeah.
And often in many, many scenes, she's by herself and she's walking around a motel and she's interacting with the building itself. And we need somebody who could hold the audience's attention, who not just had terrific acting capabilities, but had tremendous screen presence. And that was what drew us to Phoebe. And we're still thanking our lucky stars that she said yes.
Yeah, and it was also like
one thing I noticed, and in Crawl as well, and even in Sweet Virginia, even though you guys didn't direct it, I'm assuming some of it came from the script. You guys seem very comfortable with silence and not feeling the need to fill every moment with dialogue or score or something. And I thought Phoebe and George, who in Crawl, who I loved ever since an old Aussie film called Love Serenade that no one's ever heard of.
Yes.
But both of them are particularly good at being silent, but conveying so much just through small movements, even, a flicker of an eye. Or is that something you consciously like to include? And if so, where did that come from?
I mean, it definitely harkens back to like early horror cinema or early cinema in general, because storytelling on screen is as much about emotion as it is about information and dialogue. And so, particularly when you're dealing with suspense, silence is everything. Silence is the power. Silence is what gets under the audience's skin. I think it was Plansky who once said that if you showed a scene of a battlefield, during the Civil War or something like that, but then you showed a scene of a woman walking down an alley at night, which is the one that's going to evoke the most suspense and tension and the most feeling or reaction from an audience. And it's the woman walking down the alley, without a shadow of a doubt, because it's also relatable. But yeah, by casting an actress like Phoebe, who has such a rare, fantastic talent, but has this dynamic, wonderful face which can hold the audience's attention and say so much without actually uttering any dialogue. And so again, we were lucky to cast her.
I also think as well, like with media in general today, we're inundated with so much information. There's like movies, TV shows, and the likes, and there's so much dialogue that fills up, and everyone's talking, and it's like an information overload. So when you sort of pull it back and bring it back to basics, really, particularly in a visceral sense, it's just like relying on silence, relying on emotion that we can sort of see in our facial expressions or gestures. It just really sort of brings it back to a very human level that I think we're kind of missing, and obviously that trait works so well in genre movies, and we just love to sort of capitalize on that element.
Yeah. I don't want to get into spoilers here because the film has lots of twists and turns, and I think everyone should go see it, so I don't want to give anything away. But when you guys approach a film like this and you're writing it, I'm just curious about your writing techniques and styles. Do you guys plot out the entire movie first before you sit down and start writing, or are you kind of fly by the seat of your pants writers? Is there a particular scene that you start with? Like, how did the idea come about for you guys?
I think we have to be meticulous in the execution, particularly with a film like Night Shift, which predominantly takes place at one location. Yeah, we have to be well prepared. So once we knew that we had an idea that we were incredibly excited about, it was then very much about mapping that film out with a 3-act structure. What happens with the twists and turns, how the plot develops, how can we keep the audience continuously entertained and surprised. And just by even having the characters of Warren and Birdie who show up in the middle of the film, the fancy, affluent couple, like just the last thing that you expect when you're watching a film like this, particularly by having actor like Patrick Fischler and Lauren Bowles. But again, it's just, how do we keep the audience entertained? Because we know that, and hopefully you both agree with us here, but to go to the cinema takes a lot of work. And we don't want to take that for granted. We know that, you have to pay for a cinema ticket, you pay for food, drinks, petrol in your car, babysitters. And so the last thing that we want to do is let the audience down. I mean, so as much as we do care about subtext and, of course, and character arcs and what have you, we are very much about entertaining the audience. We want them to leave the cinema satisfied and having a good time and, forgetting about their own life for a little while. Yeah,
so we try and map those stories out as best as we can before writing. So we sort of know all the beats down pat, and then we can sort of bring it to life.
With just on the casting of Patrick and Lauren, obviously real life husband and wife.
Yeah.
Was surely that's not happenstance. Did you sort of write these characters and go, who could nail this? Patrick Fischler. Let's see if we can get him.
Yeah, it was. We actually cast Lauren first, I believe.
Yeah, we cast, like, they were both on our list, and we cast Lauren first, and then she was just like, my husband was reading opposite me, and he would love to sort of play the character of Warner. And we were like, well, who's your husband? Like,
okay.
Patrick. We were like, well, that's a no-brainer. And we were very, very lucky and very thankful that they came up and showed up and just, knocked it out of the park and gave one.
They are clearly having a ball with those characters.
And we only had them for one day. I believe it was one day that we had them, but it was such a wonderful day.
Yeah.
And just having them spar with Phoebe in that one scene, and I mean, they played those characters so well because they're so frustrating, but also incredibly funny. And again, with I think an important component with horror is humor. They are two sides of the same coin. And so we're very much focused on that. We don't want to create any kind of like depressing film in the slightest. It is important to have levity. And so, yeah, those two characters really brought that to life.
There's wonderful little moments of kind of sly humor through. I mean, the addition of Yogi, for example, is such a great, and so from a writing standpoint, so utilitarian, because you can literally, we need to break the tension here. Oh, well, Yogi falls down again.
Yeah. It was just so wonderful because it's a comical moment, but it's also a moment of horror too. You know, it's like, why is Yogi falling down? And to have that as a repetitive theme, like, is the motel haunted? And just to have them both together, levity and horror, just it works so well if you can manage to sort of
it's the secret sauce.
Yeah,
yes.
It really is.
And it really is interesting to sort of see an audience reaction. We've been fortunate enough to see the film a couple of times with a packed audience, and to hear them laugh at particular moments in one screening and then, you know, scream or not laugh in another one is utterly fascinating, because it depends on how each audience member takes that scene. Because some people find certain moments or certain instances quite peculiar or funny, and others don't at all. But it's important to at least provide it.
Yeah. You guys obviously love genre and horror specifically. You can hear that in the way you guys are talking about it now, and you can see that and feel that in the movie as well. What are some of the movies that inspired you guys? I read that it was when you first saw, a VHS copy of Halloween. Are there any other movies that have really kind of inspired you? And at some point, would you like to play with other genres, like, for example, a straight comedy, or are you guys horror through and through, do you think?
I think we're horror through and through, but we love the subgenres of horror. You know, when you look at Night Shift, I mean, the two biggest influences for Night Shift are probably Hitchcock's Psycho and Mario Bava's Kill Baby Kill, which was massive. Nice. So we love Bava, and then just having like a little sort of, not little, a heavy dose of giallo in there too, to sort of really make it pop and give it life. So we do love like those little pockets that you can play with. We're always doing that, really, aren't we? I guess.
Absolutely. I also find that with certain horror films, I've laughed more in certain horror films than I have in comedies.
Yeah.
I mean, like being in a sold out screening of Get Out, I remember crying with laughter. I mean, and that film is incredibly terrifying, but also absolutely hysterical. And I think audiences do react to that, and that very much appeals to Ben and I. That again, the audience is getting the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
You remember the laughs as much as the scares, but again, you're not really falling into the horror comedy category. As great as that category can be, we still very much want to be a horror film, but
and also, and if you can find those moments as well to like try and make the audience laugh right before a moment of horror and vice versa, that's always like such a wonderful trick if you can do it, like which we tried to do with a few instances on Night Shift, particularly with the tongue at the end, and just like you feel like your tension is relieved, and then you get a smack in the face. But it's just funny to find those moments.
I'm curious, you did touch on the writing process. When you guys are working on developing a project, are you together? Do you sort of come together and have a writing day in a room? Or are you, and I read that Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett used to just mail each other chapters and then get them back with notes scrawled on them. How do you approach that sort of collaborative process?
I think we prefer to work together in a room, much to the annoyance of my wife. But it's again, it's very collaborative, and it's two heads are better than one. It's important to the most crucial stage is mapping out the film by plotting the structure, the character arcs, again roughing out sort of the beats where we want it to go, and then the fun part is actually bringing it to life in script format with the dialogue. But it's again it goes back to a twin thing, I guess, that we haven't killed each other yet, because again we just don't fall in line with that, and again so many people seem to be confused by it. How have you not murdered each other? But again it's harmonious. I guess we'll never know. Maybe we have too much grey hairs.
Maybe it is.
But
I'm jealous of any hairs. When you're on set, and particularly, I guess I'm thinking more of Crawl, because I did read that when you foot on the Crawl set for the first time. It was the first time on any set, which must have been kind of terrifying. How do you divide up duties when you're co-directing? I think I read somewhere that the Coens, one of them focuses more on working with the actors, the other more on the camera. Do you sort of do it that way, or are you just kind of both there, joined at the hip for everything?
We're both there.
Yeah.
It's 50-50. We don't really split up the camera or the actors at all. We hopefully we feel like an actor can come up to either one of us and still get the same kind of response or answer.
Yeah.
Again, having the two of us, it adds to the creativity, how we feel about a shot composition or a performance, working alongside each other. Yeah, it's again, it's sort of effortless, and we consider ourselves fortunate that we do actually have each other, and we're not alone in that situation, because it is an overwhelming task and a phenomenal job as well. By the way, we count our blessings that we get to do what we love for a living. But again, it's harmonious.
It is. I think the only thing we split is one of us will just say action, the other will say cut, and we just we just like that by flipping a coin.
Yeah.
It's just I mean, it's harmonious. It really is. We're there for everything together, really.
Just making sure that Ben also has a beard and I'm clean shaven, so the actors can tell the difference.
Yeah.
That's it, really.
It is a rarity. I mean, I can, other than the Coens, you've got Daniels, and I can think of maybe Powell and Pressburger. There's not that many long-lasting duo teams as far as directing goes. So you're in a rarefied company.
Yeah, hopefully we get to just keep going.
Yeah. Hopefully we just get to keep doing it. It's hard work, but we absolutely love it, and hopefully we can just keep trudging on.
Well, certainly from what I've read, you've got a lot of irons in the fire, as it were. I believe, is the bidding war finished on Most Evil? That's gone in production or about to?
Most Evil is a script that we love, and we sold it was in a competitive situation, and we sold to a studio around the time that we set off to make Night Shift. We kind of wanted to sell one script and then go and make ours to sort of give us the energy and the heat needed off the sale, and it did. It worked in our favor. Unfortunately, it hasn't been made. So I don't know how close it's been, because it's been shopped around to a few different places since then, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think it went to MGM and then they sold it to Netflix, I think, and now it's just in development hell, which means we'll never see the light of day, like most things. It's sad, really, but when it's particularly a spec script and like creativity goes into it, but it's just the nature of the industry, which is unfortunate. But aside from that, we've written 2 other scripts that we hope to make next, that we've pushed out. We have good producers on. One's casting, one's financing. So hopefully we can get those 2 up and running this year.
Oh, yeah. Amazing.
So obviously you guys have done a lot of writing for other people. Has the experience on Crawl and now, of course, Night Shift, has that kind of shifted your focus towards writing projects for you guys to direct and film yourselves, or do you still enjoy writing for other people to then think away?
The honest answer, no. I mean, I think we were really sort of set now on particularly just how hard it was to get Night Shift off the ground. It was years in the making, and to be able to do that, it just really sort of propels us forward, that we want to just keep making films. So we're just writing scripts for ourselves, and hopefully we get those opportunities to keep doing that. As wonderful as it is to write for other people, it's never as lovely as doing it for yourself.
I can imagine. I mean, I think Sweet Virginia, seeing that come to life and getting people like Chris Abbott and John Bernthal and Imogen Poots, you'd kind of go, okay, I'm kind of happy seeing my words coming out of those mouths. But the flip side could very easily, I would imagine, be the case where you're having poured your heart and soul into something, you then see it cast and, oh, look, Paulie Shaw's in it or something fabulous. Keeping the controls surely must have a benefit in that you can make sure that who you envisage when you are writing the words is the one that's on the screen saying them.
Yes, absolutely. And it's an interesting experience with Sweet Virginia, because the film is actually, it's sort of quite different to the script that we wrote. Our script for Sweet Virginia had much more levity in it. And I think that the characters are a little more Coen-esque with their quirks. and what have you. And as whereas the filmmaker Jamie Dagg, who's exceptionally talented, he sort of made a very much like a Scandinavian noir type film.
Yeah.
That as excellent as the film is, and as wonderful as those performances are, and they were, particularly from Bernthal, it was different from the direction that Ben and I had taken on the page. So it is really interesting to see that, because it's kind of conflicting emotions. And so the tremendous benefit, of course, with Night Shift is to see come to life what we actually originally envisioned. And hopefully we can just keep doing that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I'm super keen to see what you guys do next. Is Coffin Hill, are you guys working on a adaptation or something?
Yeah, that was a graphic novel series that was brought to us by Warner Brothers, wasn't it?
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, and then we did an adaptation for them. That's just like another one of those TV projects that you sit there, you give them a take, and everyone gets happy, and then you're like, well, now what? And it just sort of sits there in silence for a while, and then that silence becomes months, and then it becomes years. But that was a fun one.
It was a fun one, yeah. Again, and that was, well, like Ben was saying, when we were kind of working in TV for a few years, and it was interesting with television because we write so much, which is why we kind of drifted over there. But by selling numerous television shows, which again, on one hand is wonderful because, people are interested in your work and you're getting paid. But at the same time, those projects don't actually get made. And that's the case with most projects in Hollywood in general. So by then shifting out of that and going back to our first love and doing what we actually wanted to do, which was filmmaking, specifically with genre films, has been tremendously rewarding. And by seeing Night Shift actually come to life.
Yeah, it was very difficult in that TV space because even when we had a TV show that was, it was at Paramount and Skydance, and we had Sam Raimi at the board as a director, and it just never moved forward. Just like you even have all those pieces, which is so wonderful, and all these talented people, and you still can't get over the line. But at least sort of bringing it back to the film model, and where it's just us, it gives us more creativity and more allowance to hopefully get those projects made instead.
Yeah.
Well, here's hoping with Night Shift out the gate, those conversations around funding and things for future projects just become that little bit easier each time for you.
Absolutely. Particularly by wanting to now sort of make much bigger films. I mean, because Night Shift was, it's filmed over 17 days on, I think it was 500 grand is all we had at the end of the day. So, by hopefully just getting bigger and bigger each time. And our next scripts are kind of much larger in scale. So hopefully we get to play with those and make those very soon.
Yeah, worked for Daniels. It'll work for you guys, I'm sure.
Oh, you're too kind.
Yeah, too kind. Absolutely. Hopefully it does, because it's we have so much fun doing it.
Well, thanks very much for spending time with us. We'll let you go and sort of relax into your afternoon.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
We'll I'm not sure if I said at the start. I've already watched Night Shift 3 times. I'll probably watch it again today, later on, maybe. I feel like I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's right in my wheelhouse in terms of genre and tone and everything, and cast were fabulous. It's should be really proud of yourselves.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for saying that.
And thank you for watching it as well and giving us your time. It was that means a lot to us.
Yeah, and we made it for audiences to enjoy. That's the aim. So if that's working, if that's your reaction, then we can be more pleased.
It's Gwen, right?
Gwen Taylor.
Teddy Miles. This is my place. Look, I know it looks as if the damn Addams family used to live here. But trust me, this place is harmless. Huh! Really gotta get this thing fixed. Oh, boy. Now, we got 20 cabins, all are basically identical. If you take to the job, then maybe we can make it a regular thing.
All right, it'd be great. What kind of security do you have here?
Security? Well, if you want, there's a fire axe next to the vending machine. Nobody's gonna mess with you if you're swinging that thing around, you know what I'm saying? Welcome to the night shift.
Excuse me. Are you okay?
You know this place is haunted, right?
Oh my God.
How does this dump even stay open? People have probably died here, right? In other news, authorities have yet to apprehend a convicted murderer who escaped a facility Wednesday evening.
It's for you.